Howdy, everyone. My name is Alex Jantz, and I serve as an assistant coordinator in the Office of New Student and Family Programs at Texas A&M. Welcome to our final web chat of the semester. We are so excited to partner with the Career Center, and we have Paige Hellman and her team here to tell y'all a little bit more about what they have to offer and ways that your students can be supported by their office, even from a distance, through all of this self-isolation stuff we are going through. If you have any questions, please feel free to post those in the chat, and members of our offices will answer them and post them back into the chat for you. Also, please make sure that your microphone is muted so that way there's no background noise or anything that's distracting other listeners from being able to pay attention to Paige and her team. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Paige. Thank you again for tuning into our web chat, and we're excited to get started. Howdy, Paige.
Howdy, Alex. Thanks so much for having us. Again, my name is Paige Hellman. I am a senior career coordinator working specifically with first and second year students in the Texas A&M Career Center. And we are really excited to be here with you today to just talk about an overview of the services that we offer, how those might have changed a little bit in light of this global pandemic we're all experiencing, and how you can best support your student during this time and really through their entire college journey in their career exploration and decision making. So I actually have some wonderful teammates joining me that I will let them introduce themselves as well.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Taylor Henderson, and I am also a career coordinator in the Career Center, and I'm the first and second year specialist for Mays Business School.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Amaret Ranieri, and I am also a career coordinator in the Career Center, and I work specifically with the general engineering students over in the College of Engineering.
Okay, so to get started, we just wanted to touch on who we are as a Career Center, and the best way to do that is with our mission statement. So the Career Center promotes career learning throughout the entire period of a student's involvement with Texas A&M. We're going to talk a lot about kind of that first and second year piece today. And we also work to establish Aggies as the preferred source of talent for employers. And so we work heavily with the employer side. We have an entire team dedicated to cultivating those employer relationships so that they'll keep coming back to campus and recruiting Aggies. But basically boiled down, that means that your student is going to be job searching at some point, as well as deciding on a major at some point, and we are here to help. We're a great support resource for both of those decision-making processes. As far as who can use the Career Center, we are available to any current or former student from Texas A&M. So that's all classifications, starting with that first year freshman, sophomore group, as well as juniors and seniors, graduate students, and former students. There are very few services within college that have no shelf life, and we are one of them. As long as your student has an affiliation with Texas A&M, we are here to serve them. We do, like I mentioned previously, career and major exploration, and it's paid for completely by student fees. So these services are going to be free for the life of your student. And a little bit of context for our impact. So this graphic can be located on our website, which is just hireaggies.com, but it's a pretty good breakdown of really the reach that our office has and a couple of numbers that we wanted to call out specifically. So for the 2018 to 2019 academic year, we had over 20,000 student career advisement contacts. And what that means is in-person advising appointments, email advising, phone calls with students, really any sort of one-on-one exchange with students talking about that career planning process. We hosted over 850 workshops and programs, and that specific year we had over 4,200 companies recruiting at Texas A&M, and those are different entities all recruiting on campus. The Hire Aggie system, which we're going to talk a little bit about later in the presentation, is really probably one of the coolest resources that we offer through the Career Center. And that particular year, there were over 12,000 full-time and co-op postings within that system. And so We really do have a pretty broad reach. We're really proud of what we do. And if you want any more information kind of about the scope of what we're able to accomplish within our office, please visit our website. There are a ton of other data points there that should be really helpful.
So some of the things we're going to be going through today is the career decision process that your student might go through. So these are kind of some of the steps that we see in students, and we have resources to help your student every step of the way. So really the first thing for your student to do is to learn about themselves. We see a lot of students that come to us and say, I just have absolutely no idea what to do. I don't know necessarily what I'm passionate about yet. I'm not really sure where to start. And we always tell students that that's okay. If they are coming to see us and they're talking about it and they're starting to reflect on it, that is a good thing. And they are taking the steps that they need to start to make those decisions. And so we do have resources to help students in that process of learning about themselves. The next step is for students to explore options and choose their directions. So there are a lot of different major options at Texas A&M and pretty much infinite directions that they can take those majors once they graduate. And so we, again, have resources and steps that they can take to explore those different options and decide which direction and path they're going to pursue. We also have resources for students to gain experience and skills. We really encourage that. That's one thing that employers look for. So we will get more into detail about how students can do that. The fourth step is to find jobs and interview, or for your student to apply to professional or graduate school. And so whichever path your student is on, this is actually a really great time for them to be kind of exploring that. Networking is a huge part of that. So we'll talk about ways that your student can do that. And then finally, we are free to all students for life, as Taylor said. So we will talk some about former student services as well. So that first step in your student of learning about themselves, we have some assessments that might help with that. So through the Career Center, we have an assessment called SIGI 3. And what I like to tell students is this is not a crystal ball. It's not meant to tell them exactly what they should do, but they can take this assessment and answer questions based on their values, their interests, their personality, and their skills. And it'll come back and say, here's some majors that might interest you, or here's some career paths that might interest you. Again, I always tell students that they're the ones that know themselves the very best, not a computer. And so they always need to go with their gut and their instinct, but SIGI 3 and assessments like it can be a way that students can get a starting place and start to learn about themselves and what might be a good fit for them. We also have a really close relationship with counseling and psychological services at Texas A&M. It's abbreviated CAPS, and they also have some other assessments as well. So they have something called Focus 2. It's similar to SIGI 3 in that they can take assessments and it can give them majors and careers that might be a good fit for them. What's interesting about and helpful about Focus 2 is that it's actually Texas A&M specific. So it, the student will take the assessment and it will say, okay, here is this major that we actually have at Texas A&M that might fit you well, or that you might want to explore a little bit more. Strong and MBTI are other personality assessments or interest assessments offered through CAPS. They are in-person workshops, which one thing to note is that those have been suspended for this particular semester. But in a normal scenario, though they offer those workshops throughout each fall and spring, and those can be really helpful for students as well. And CAPS also has some great career counselors that can be really helpful, even though those workshops aren't going on right now. As a Career Center, we're also really focused on helping students learn about themselves and facilitate this career exploration process. And so our workshops really reflect that. So we have workshops throughout the fall and the spring called My Dream Life, self-care and mindfulness throughout the major and career decision journey. We know that this is a stressful process and can't, especially right now, if a student is unsure of their major or their career, on top of the normal stress that is going on in the world right now. So we have workshops like that, Discovering Your Values, Interests, and Skills, where we walk students through ways to do that. My Family Career Tree, because we know that families play a really big role in students' major and career decisions, and even more. So that's just a couple to highlight. We have moved a lot of our workshops online for this semester, and so they're virtual. Students are still able to access the information. And then when we're able to get back in person, we'll continue to have workshops like this in person. And then we also have career advising for students. So we do have career advisors for every college, every major, and for students who are undecided. So we have people who specifically work with students wanting to change their major if they're in a major and they're unhappy. We have advisors who can have that conversation with your student to help them figure out what their next step is. So step 2 is explore options and choose direction. We have an awesome space on our website that helps with this. It's majors.tanu.edu. What's really helpful about this is that it lists every single major that's available at Texas A&M and gives more information about it. And so it talks kind of about what a student will be learning about it as a major, different career paths that a student might pursue. We also track graduation data, and at every graduation ceremony, we ask students, what degree are you graduating with today? Who has hired you, and what have they hired you to do? And so our current students can really see the range of what Aggie graduates are doing with their majors. So one thing I really want to highlight is a big saying that we have in the Texas A&M Career Center is that your major does not equal your career. It's very common, and it's a natural misconception to think that, oh, because I'm a psychology major, I have to be a psychologist. Or because I wasn't a psychology major, I can't be a psychologist. And actually, neither one of those things are true. When employers are looking at hiring your students, they're really looking at the skills that they've developed. They're looking at your student as a whole person. And so their major is just one piece of that, and they can develop those skills and direct those skills in really whatever direction that they want. So there really is no tie between major and career, and that's something we really try to highlight with students, where if they're exploring their major, by picking your major, you don't have to have your entire career and life laid out. Those are separate decisions, and you can take time to really process and make those decisions. And then also with exploring options and choosing direction, vault.com is a service provided by the Career Center. It's a career exploration resource that can help students research careers, employers, and industries provided. It's provided by the Career Center. And so this can be something great right now where your students are maybe having a little more downtime than they're used to. Use this and encourage them to research these employers and industries to figure out really what's the best fit for them, and use this downtime to their advantage.
So the next step is gaining the experience and skill set piece. And this is such a valuable part of the career exploration and career decision-making process, in the sense that they can really students are able to figure out, okay, is this the right pathway for me or is it not? And there's no right or wrong way that gaining experience and skills looks like. There's a wide variety, and we really encourage students to think about various ways of doing it, not just getting an internship, because there's getting involved on campus is an important piece, because you're developing those soft skills, and that's what employers are looking for. They're really looking to build for people that have those various skills, not just knowledge on the industry, right? And so that's how you get that, is through these different experiences. I did want to take a few minutes and talk about the difference between an internship and a co-op. It's kind of almost one and the same thing, and is really dependent on the industry, but there are a few differences. So with an internship, they're typically during the summer, or if they're during a long semester, they're not a full-time 40-hour-a-week type thing. They're 15 to 20 hours a week. And you typically can try to get course credit. And they're not always paid, just depending on the industry again, or they're not always well paid either. Cooperative education, or co-op, is a little bit different. They're usually multiple work terms, and you're working in a fall or spring semester, and you're working full-time as 40 hours a week at a company, and you get enrolled in a course that maintains your student status. So it's a really great way to gain some of that experience by also keeping your student status keeping your admittance to A&M, right? You don't lose your admission and you don't lose that ability. And you also receive course credit. And again, some companies like that model, some prefer the internship model. It just really depends. We see cooperative education a lot of times in engineering, but there's other disciplines that do it as well. So it's a really great option. Our office also offers a career exploration days program, which happens in the January time frame. And so what that is basically we facilitate and build relationships with companies, and then students are able to go and experience what it's like to work in a company for different industries and different companies. It's really a great tool for students to discover, okay, is this the right pathway for me, with not having to invest a whole lot of time because it's just a day experience. And that's so valuable because we've had students that have said, oh yeah, I went on this, I was a chemical engineering student and I went on this career exploration days to a company, and I quickly realized that chemical engineering was not what I wanted to do, and I changed my major to history because of that experience. And so that's where something like that is valuable. And again, I mentioned campus involvement is so important. Part-time jobs are great. So there's a lot of jobs on campus, and those are valuable experience. Not even just part-time jobs on campus, but if they're working at a restaurant, all of those are really, really valuable tools in helping them build their skills. Shadowing and of course research experience are also all really great tools. And on the next slide, I'll let Paige get to the next slide. This is kind of why we say getting experience is important, right? And I've kind of mentioned some of it, right? So employers are expecting it. That's what's going to help students stand out to employers. It increases their marketability. So when they graduate, they're able to get that job, right? And I mentioned the confirming major and career choices. And then what's great about getting that experience in the real world, as you would say, right? Quotes around that, is that you can they are able to take what they're learning in the classroom and apply it in the real world. And that's so valuable. There's the opportunity to earn money. And then this is an important piece of building their network, right? So finding people that are within the industry, and that's so important for students to be doing while they're in school. And then of course, developing that confidence is another important piece of all of that. So all that to say is that gaining experience is something that they should be starting as soon as they get to Texas A&M. And that's not meaning that they need an internship after their first semester, but finding ways to get involved on campus is so valuable kind of in that first year to understand what else is happening on campus and learn about all the resources that are available to them as well.
So step 4 is finding jobs and the interview process. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that Hire Aggie system that was mentioned previously. So Hire Aggies is essentially the A&M specific job board. But the beautiful thing is that it's actually not pulling in from any sort of web-based profile or portal. These are jobs that employers put in individually because they are seeking Aggies to fill them. So it's essentially the most captive audience that prospective employees can utilize. And it's going to house full-time jobs, internships, and those co-op placements. But the really big key thing that we encourage students to do is to update their profile because they're not automatically loaded into that system. The other great thing that this system is being used for currently is for something called resume books. And what that is essentially a compilation of uploaded resumes that are based on maybe major or discipline or perhaps a group of majors that employers are looking for. And so right now, with things maybe changing within certain organizations or maybe companies that are doing quite well during this time or looking to maybe grow their internship pool, they're coming to our office and asking for lists of students that are within these specific majors. And so we're able to pull those resume books down from this system and give them directly to the employers for review. So the other really few great pieces about this particular portal are the interview functions that live within it. So students can apply for positions, but then they can also schedule and connect with the employers directly within the same system to schedule their on-campus interviews. For those of you that have never visited the Career Center office, we're located in the coldest building, and we actually have, I believe, 29 interview spaces within our office. And so a large portion of our employers come to campus so that students don't have to do distance interviews. They don't have to travel to go to their corporate headquarters or to their office space. And that's really valuable. And so that Hire Aggies portal can allow the employer and the student to arrange that meeting within that one space. And it's just a little bit easier for both parties. Back in 2018 and 2019, again, over 4,000 companies are using this system. So it's heavily used and they really enjoy using it. It just makes everything a lot more streamlined on the employer side. Over 3,000 co-op and internship postings were added, which is pretty significant whenever you're considering that the vast majority of those, or all of them are targeting Aggies specifically. And a lot of those are going to maybe only be posted within this one system. They're not also going to be posted on a nationwide portal, maybe like LinkedIn or Indeed. We have active employers kind of rotating out throughout the system depending on the time of year, but generally we have around 900 active at one time. So again, it's really important that your students use it, and we're going to continue to beat that drum if they visit with us, but if you guys can encourage them to get in that system and just set up their profile, that would be huge. There are also a lot of really great resources within Hire Aggies, but also outside of Hire Aggies. So some online resources that can be used within the system are going to be some virtual mock interviews. This is great practice if your student has an interview coming up, or maybe they're just trying to get a little bit more prepared for the interview process. Maybe they're moving into a phase where they're wanting to get an internship for perhaps maybe summer of 21, and they want to practice their interview skills over this summer. There is also Career Shift and Going Global, which are both career aggregators that pull in national postings that students can utilize or can look through. Sometimes they're a little bit more captive than using just search engines on the World Wide Web. They're a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more combed through. So those are some great resources as well. Other things to think about in terms of that networking piece are things like the Aggie Network, right? It's one of the best parts of being affiliated with the university. And so things like Find an Aggie within the Association of Former Students website is huge. Perhaps a student has been selected for an internship in a new city and they don't have any family within that city or they don't have connections there. We have students constantly using Find an Aggie to look for former students that maybe live in those communities that they can reach out to, maybe just for information about where they should live, or maybe what to do with their car if it's a metropolitan area, or maybe they work within a specific industry within that community and they just want to build that network while they're in that place. So please, encourage your students to use that. Additional services that we offer through the Career Center that are not web-based, of course, are resume and cover letter critiques. We have a walk-in system in person that we have now transitioned fully online. Your students have, if they just visit our website, the process to register for those is extremely easy. And we are happy to look at their resume and cover letter as many times as they need to. LinkedIn workshops, several different disciplines within the university. Coordinators in those specific locations offer LinkedIn workshops and try to cover different pieces of that process. We also do mock interviews with students. So sometimes it'll be a requirement through a class, but sometimes students will just want to build up their confidence. They can schedule those with us as well. And then of course, career fairs. We have, I believe, over 13 career fairs offered in both fall and spring, and that's campus-wide. So they're big operations, but those are great opportunities for students to practice their in-person networking skills, to really get in front of some employers and just build out their comfort in dealing with working professionals. So whenever an interview experience does come up, it feels very organic and they're not nervous about that.
I wanted to jump in really quick here before we move on, because there's been several questions that have come up in the chat related to the coronavirus and how industries are reacting and what that looks like for the job market. And really, honestly, it's hard for us to tell right now. There is still a lot of unknowns because companies don't really know either. Now, I will say internships typically are the first thing to be cut in terms of that's something that's considered extra on the employer side. However, we've also kind of seen both. We've seen some employers cancel internships. We've also seen several employers continue with doing virtual internships of some sort. I think the other thing to kind of continue and encourage your students to do is keep learning and keep doing other things. If they can't do an internship, they can be learning a new skill or finding ways to volunteer or finding other ways to kind of stay engaged. The university has a really great resource called LinkedIn Learning that's provided free to the students. And so if they go to linkedinlearning.tamu.edu, they can do different workshops and skills and build their skill set out. So that's something that they can do if their internship has been canceled. I would highly recommend, if your student has had an internship canceled on them or an offer pulled, please reach out to us at the Career Center, and we'll be sharing our contact information at the end. But that's really important for them to reach out to us because we are taking steps to support those students, as well as allowing, we're doing some resume books. I think Taylor talked a little bit about the resume books. We're still doing those things right now to help support students. And so have them reach out to us so that we're aware of the companies that are pulling those offers, as well as being able to support them as they navigate this. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I know this is all a very uncertain time for many of us. And we still really don't know what the true impact is going to be from this. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide. So this is the VMOC slide. And sorry, we have a great resource available to current students. That's called VMOC, and it's basically an online resume review tool. Students can upload their resume to VMOC and then have it instantly reviewed. So it's another great tool to use in tandem with our virtual walk-ins as well. And this is criteria that we've set at the Career Center. So this is something that we have vetted through our team, and we have set the criteria for what resumes should look like. So it's a very valuable resource for students to be able to access. All right, the next slide. Sorry, I'll hand it back over to Taylor.
Oh no, that's okay. As you guys can tell, it's definitely a team effort getting things transitioned over to the virtual space. But one last thing within that step 4 to talk about is applying to professional or graduate school. And in fact, both myself and my colleague in the College of Business, we've seen an uptick in students contacting us for information about perhaps pursuing a graduate degree, just in light of what's going on in the world. And so this is a big topic. If your student is at all curious in exploring a professional program or graduate school, we actually career advises specific to those paths. So that's going to be dental, law, medicine, nursing, OT, pharmacy, PT, physician assistant, veterinary medicine. So sorry, as well as just general graduate school advisors. So we have a huge team that are well prepared to answer questions about those options. And they're not only well versed in the application process, but in many cases, these advisors have very strong relationships with graduate programs, both within the state of Texas and beyond. And so they can almost always speak to some more nuanced pieces about the application processes specific to specific institutions. So it's a great resource. We highly recommend that your student pursue these advisors if that's something that interests them. Their phone number is at the very bottom of this slide. However, on our website, they are also doing virtual advising at this time. And they, I believe, have a form set up so that students can sign up for those appointments pretty seamlessly as well. But yeah, it's a huge team. We highly encourage students to check them out.
Alrighty, so kind of our last step that we like to mention in our presentations is our services to former students. So we're with students throughout their lifetime. And so we can help with resumes, cover letters, job search strategies, how to use LinkedIn to the best of their ability. They can access Hire Aggies as well. They just have to access it through aggienetwork.com/careers. And this is also very valuable if you have friends or anyone else in your own network that are former students. Please connect them to us because we're probably going to be seeing some other former students out of jobs. And so we're also here for them to help them kind of navigate this time in our world where things are so uncertain. So we'll go into the next slide.
So we often get asked, how can I as a family member support my student? And our biggest answer to that is encourage them to visit the Career Center often and early, is what we say. So obviously the visiting currently is not in person, but like we've discussed, we have moved our services online, and we are absolutely 100% still here to assist your student in whatever process they're needing help with, whether that's exploration, whether that's I need an internship and COVID-19 has made it difficult, or I have lost my internship, whatever that is, we are here to support them. We also encourage you to encourage your students to explore their different career options. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but major does not equal career. And so if your student comes to you and says, well, I've wanted to do X, Y, and Z my whole life and be this major my whole life, but now I've changed my mind, not a reason to panic. There are a lot of amazing opportunities out there for every single major. And we are here to help your student explore that. And it's absolutely okay if they want to explore that. Also, just support them. I'm sure all of you are wonderful at doing that anyway, but especially in this time of uncertainty, I think we all need support more than ever. And so just supporting your students in this process in what's already a scary time is going to go such a long way. And don't worry, they've got this. Your students are absolutely competent, and they are wonderful, and they can get through this time and through this process of career exploration, career development. And again, we know this is scary and uncertain, but we're here to help you help your student, and we're here to help your student directly. And so please just have them reach out to us. That's our job. That's what we love doing. And we are absolutely here for that, even though it's a virtual setting instead of in person for the current moment. So just to recap some of the ways that we've moved our services to a virtual format. So we do still have walk-in advising, but it is online. So it is Monday through Friday, 1:30 to 4 p.m. These will be about 15 to 20-minute meetings. These are great for if your student wants a resume review, a cover letter review, maybe some quick interview tips, something like that. They can go to tx.ag/cc walk-in. And this is on this, the link is on the screen, but they can sign up there and they will be assigned a walk-in time. So it's a little bit different than our traditional walk-ins, but this is the best way that we found that we're still able to provide this service and accommodate all the students. We're still doing career advising appointments. These are 1-hour appointments fully dedicated to your student. We have career coordinators for every major. And again, for students who might be exploring a little bit, currently, the way that we're doing that is for your student to contact their individual advisor, and they can find that at tx.ag/cc advisors and find the advisor's contact information. And then finally, we have moved a lot of our presentations, workshops, and panels online. And you can find updated information on that on the homepage of our website or by going to tx.ag/cc event calendar. So, if you have any questions about that, feel free to send it in the chat, but we have done our very best and worked really hard to move our services online so that we can still support your students during this time. And we hope that we'll be able to chat with them a little bit more. So that's all the specific information we really have. On the screen, there's ways to connect with us. So we are on social media at Higher Aggie. So that's Instagram, Twitter, and then Facebook. We're just the Texas A&M Career Center. When we are back on campus, our main office is in Coldus 209, and we have satellite offices in the Ag and Life Sciences building, Suite 515, Wayner 340 for business, and then Zachary 100A for engineering. And that's just, we're all one career center, we're centralized, but that's, we have advisors in the locations that your students are for that particular student population. And if you have questions about anything and just general questions and aren't sure who to direct it to, cc_advisor@tanu.edu is a great place to start. That's just a general account, and it's monitored, and the person who monitors that will get the question into the hands of the right person. And then, of course, our website has an abundance of resources at higheraggies.com. So we will take this time to answer some questions, so feel free to send them in. But we really appreciate y'all joining in today.
I think we had a question about like the job prospects of current undergrad students versus the same students extending their studies to complete their graduate degrees at A&M. That's a really hard question to answer because it kind of is also very dependent on the industry and dependent on the economy too. I mean, we saw some of the same similar trends in 2008 where students, the job market just wasn't there, and so they decided to extend their studies, which could be the same trend here. We just don't know, and it's really hard to answer those questions now. And I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think that kind of helps it kind of how doing that. So some of them are beneficial in doing a graduate degree, some aren't. It just really kind of depends. So that's where we recommend talking to us, and we can kind of help walk them through kind of what their best options are.
Well, and I wanted to add to that, just speaking of the job market for students that are not interested in pursuing an undergraduate program, we've had several employers that have reached out to their hires. A lot of hiring occurs actually in perhaps like August, September, October of the prior year for May graduates to begin in June. And so some of those employers have simply asked for their new hires to push their start date. So instead of starting in June, they may be starting in August or September, because I think generally speaking, a lot of industries are expecting to be back to some semblance of normal operations by fall. Of course, we all know that could change, but a lot of hires have just been asked to push their start date a little bit later within the year. And so, widely speaking, that's been the majority of what I've seen from students. But just as Amaret said, that really a lot of it just depends on the industry specifically. And some students have, they've really taken this time to perhaps do some of those exploration pieces a bit more, and they're, using this time of being home to reflect on perhaps going back to school for a graduate program. And there are so many different 4+1 options depending on the college within Texas A&M, which is essentially just staying on for another year to 18 months to finish a graduate program. And so, really the decision is coming from multiple different areas from students. But if any of these pieces are of interest to your student in particular, just please have them reach out to their advisor, and we can walk them through all of the details. I did also see a question that came in pretty recently about industries that are actually expanding due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'll speak from the College of Business perspective, and maybe Amaret or Paige can add into some additional detail from that. We've seen a little bit of an uptick within retailing industries. So our supply chain majors, students that are perhaps in the retailing space or in sales, some of those jobs are growing for grocery store chains or industrial equipment, things that are really being heavily consumed at this time. And so students don't really necessarily need to be a retailing studies concentration within marketing to be able to benefit from those needs. There are several other disciplines that are also in heavy need at this point. I would also venture to say that some of the research science aspects are probably in pretty high demand at this time, and they may be looking to grow their research teams. Amaret or Paige, if you have any additional examples, that'd be awesome.
I was going to say biotechnology is really booming right now, as you could probably guess. So that's definitely one that came to mind for me.
I would just say, like, I think healthcare, maybe, I don't know if Taylor mentioned that one or not, but I think healthcare is an important one. And of course, anything with tech related has kind of also been booming as well. In terms of engineering, a lot of that software developing and programming is booming, of course.
I would like to thank Paige, Amaret, and Taylor for all of their very valuable information that they have given us today. If you have any questions, we can stay on the line longer so that we can answer those. Please just continue to post them in the chat, and Paige and her team can answer them audibly. But if not, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Cynthia asked a question about accessing these slides again, just so that everyone is aware. Our web chat today was live on Facebook, so you can access it at the Aggie Parents and Family Facebook page. You can also access it on our website, familyprograms.tamu.edu, but it'll be a couple weeks before it shows up there, as we first will add captions to the presentation so that way it's more accessible.
I did get a question about whether A&M offers any programs that pay a student a stipend and living expenses while working on their graduate degree. The short answer is yes, but it also completely depends on the program. So I definitely know of some graduate programs where if they have some kind of graduate assistantship on, or research assistantship on campus, they will get maybe reduced tuition or waived tuition and a stipend. But I think that question is, there's not really a general answer to that question. I think it's going to be program by program. And so if there is a program or department your student's particularly interested in, I think that's a great question to reach out to that department and ask to be able to get the most accurate answer.
Well, if there are no further questions, I just want to thank everyone again for joining in, and for Paige and her team for giving us all this valuable information and taking time out of their schedules to be with us today. Please make use of their contact information, which is still on the screen in front of you. If you have any questions, I know they will be very happy to help you with those things. Or you can reach out to the Office of New Student and Family Programs, and we can connect you to them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to reiterate, our website is higheraggies.com, and that's where you can find all of our contact information. So feel free to reach out to us that way.
Great. Thank you, Paige, and thanks everyone for joining. Have a great Wednesday. Thanks, and Gig'em.